there, everyone, and welcome to a very special episode of the Rock and Horror Podcast Show. Actually, welcome to two very special episodes of the Rock and Horror Podcast Show, because you're going to find that we were not able to fit all the stories and all the fun we had with our guests into one single episode. So parts 1 and part 2 are live right now on YouTube, and they are also live on your favorite podcasting platform. But you know that already because you're listening to them and or watching them. So make sure that you're starting with part 1, not part 2, because you're going to lose things in context if you start with the wrong episode. And you can do that simply by looking at your screen, seeing if it says part 2 or seeing if it says part 1. I'm just trying to give you a word of caution because I only want to do this intro one time. I want to get you guys right into the fun. The show that we're talking about on this episode is Forever Plaid. Forever Plaid was a 1989 off-Broadway musical review that became an international sensation. It plays all over the world, even to this day, 32 some odd years later. Now, in 2009, 20 years after it opened, it also became a motion picture. And starring as Smudge in that movie was David Engel, and starring as Sparky in that movie was Larry Raben. And I am so excited to tell you that they're both on the show this episode. Equal to that is the fact that the god of Plaid himself, the writer, choreographer, and director of the original show and the movie, Stuart Ross, graciously came on to discuss the show with us. I'm so thrilled that they were able to come on the show and talk about their experiences. I know you're going to be thrilled when you hear the stories, and that's about it. So without any further ado, buckle up your seatbelts, sit back, relax, and let us bring you into Plaidland.
Once upon a time, on February 9th, 1964, a semi-professional harmony group from eastern Pennsylvania was on their way to their first big gig at the Airport Hilton cocktail bar, the Fusel Lounge. While driving their cherry red 1954 Mercury convertible, they were rehearsing their finale, Love is a Many Splendored Thing. They were just getting into their favorite E-flat diminished 7th chord when they were slammed broadside by a school bus filled with eager Catholic teens from Our Lady of Harrisburg. The teens were on their way to witness the Beatles make their U.S. television debut on The Ed Sullivan Show and miraculously escaped uninjured. The harmony group, however, was killed instantly. What happens when a harmony group is snuffed out mid-coda? Where do those unresolved chords of those unresolved lives end up? Parapsychologists believe that their spirits are doomed to wander the astral plane, never resting, until that exact moment when the harsh sounds of human discord reach deafening proportions and channel them through the dimensions. Only then may they return to Earth to complete their mission of harmony and be at peace for all eternity. Ladies and gentlemen, that moment draws near. And now, for the first time on this or any other planet, Forever Plaid.
Good evening, everybody, and welcome to another edition of the Rock and Horror Podcast Show. I am, as always, your host up here in Hopatcong, New Jersey, in Studio 217, Rob Nicholson. Tonight, I am over the moon excited to welcome, number one, my close friend Frank into the studio to celebrate the amazing show and the amazing world that is Forever Plaid. And I am so happy to have with us
Don't cry.
Yeah, I'm not going to cry. I promise.
Oh, he's definitely
I might cry
crying.
a little bit. I am so happy to have with us David Engel, the original Smudge from Forever Plaid, Larry Raben, the original OG Sparky from Forever Plaid, and are you ready, guys? The god of Plaid himself, Stuart Ross.
Yay.
Now,
Yay, Stewie.
I am also joined tonight by Jacob Villarreal. Say hi.
Hello.
And who do you play in Forever Plaid, or who?
So I am playing Smudge currently at Boulder Dinner Theater in Boulder, Colorado. My first 2 times of the show, I played Frankie in Dallas, Texas, one with the Turtle Creek Chorale, which I always love to talk about because we had 154 plungers on the Morton Meyerson Symphony Center stage, and it was out of this world. If anyone knows Mark Fry from Dallas, he directed and played Smudge in that. And then after that, I've been Smudge ever since. This is number 7 for me, I believe, Plaid.
Wow.
And Plaid Tidings once, and one more this coming winter.
Wow.
Yeah, and I do have 2 plaids. 3 our other 3 plaids are here, so they might say hello real quick if that's cool with you.
That's fine. That's
Yeah.
fine.
Oh my
We
God.
have Frank Tedisco.
Sing for us.
Hello. Well,
We have
Oh, wait, there they are.
We have some poppin' plaids.
You're fine.
There you're just in the background.
Yes, Scott Severson right here.
Hi, I play Frankie. This is my 5th plaid.
Yes.
Wow.
This is our newbie, Leo Battle, our Sparky, his very, very first plaid, and he's doing phenomenal.
Ah, that's great.
Welcome to the brotherhood.
Mhm.
To the
Yes.
fraternity.
And Jinx is here somewhere. He'll pop in shortly. but-
Of course, it's always Jinx.
Thank you guys.
You guys, good luck tonight. Break
Yeah,
it.
married.
Frank.
Yes, married. Well, I'm Frank Tedisco. In 1999, I had the pleasure of playing Sparky for the what we dubbed as the greatest show no one ever saw. We did have a whopping 2 performances. So we had 2.5 months of rehearsals for 2 performances.
Wow.
Due to the wonderful Hurricane Floyd that devastated northern New Jersey that year. And then I had the distinct pleasure of bringing back my love for Forever Plaid for many, many, many performances in northern New Jersey at Rhino Studio 237 and a couple of other private little venues that we were hired out to do. That was a lot of fun for some fundraising events. And I directed Rob in 2017, as Gina has corrected us and reminded us. And it's just, whenever I had a chance to pitch directing that show to any theater, I always did, and always wound up a little short. But this little theater up in Pompton Lakes, New Jersey, gave me the shot, and it was an absolute smash for them. I'm honored to be in everyone's presence. You know, I've listened to soundtracks. I've fallen in love with this music. I knew some of this music because my father was a big, you know, with the 4 Aces and 3 Coins and the Fountain and Love is a Many Splendored Thing, the Perry Como. I grew up on Perry Como, so this has been a lifelong love for me. So thank you for allowing me to be part of this Plaid family.
Family it is.
Yep, it is.
Dave Murgatroyd, how you doing?
I'm great. How are you? Sorry, apparently everyone in my neighborhood is riding a motorcycle tonight. So if you're hearing all of that, that's all right. I was Sparky in 2014 at the Bickford Theater, Morristown, New Jersey. My solo, that was my solo trip in the show, and loved every minute of it, and hope to do it again at some point if I ever cut my hair. And
Yeah, that's it.
and actually Scott was my choreographer actually when we did that, so that's how I'm tied in with Scott. And thanks guys for being here. It's great.
Dave Rittenhouse.
Hi everybody. I'm Dave Rittenhouse. I was in that 1999 Hurricane Floyd ravaged production with Frank. I played the role of Smudge, and it's of the probably almost like 50 shows I've done in community theater in New Jersey. It is up there as one of the most memorable shows due to the camaraderie, everything that, I mean, the Hurricane Floyd aspect certainly made it even more interesting in the fact that we opened on a Friday and closed on a Saturday. But it just the closeness of the show. And I just wanted to actually take a brief moment to thank David, Larry, and Stuart. You guys hosted a reunion during the pandemic.
Yeah, we did.
Yeah, that I tuned into, and it was amazing how it brought back so many memories. And for so many years, I kept saying on like this little show, and it was just, you know, Frank, myself, Rob, and Jeff, who were the other two people that were involved. And whenever we send messages back and forth to each other, we always go back to Plaid. You know, it's a kind of a brotherhood, if you will. And it was wonderful to kind of hear that coming from other people, because I kind of felt like, I'm like, is this, you know, what is this about? And then when I heard David and Larry and the rest of the cast and Stuart talking about it, it really solidified that.
That actually brought Jacob into my life. That's how we kind of met. We met
talking
back and forth during that 30th anniversary Plaidiversary. Scott McGowan, how are you?
I'm good. Good evening. I'm Scott McGowan, and I met Stuart Ross when he directed me in a production of Footprints on the Moon for TheaterWorks USA way back in the early 90s. Never did a Plaid with him, but happily I'm happy he wrote it, because it did follow me for about 20 years from 1994 till 2014. My first initial dealings with it was when I was cast as an understudy for all 4 Plaids at Gateway Playhouse. Luckily, I never had to go on, because they knew the show and I came in at the end, and I learned all the dialogue and one person's music, because that's all I had time for. But since then, I have done Frankie 12 times. I've done Frankie 12 times, have directed it twice and choreographed it once, twice that I directed it, which I was in. And it was just a huge part of my life for, like I said, 20 years, and grateful that it was there and part of my professional career. And thank you, Stuart, for writing such an incredible piece.
Thank you, Stuart.
Yes, it's funny that we're ending up with him right now.
Are we
so
seguing?
We are, as I so eloquently put it the first time I read the word, even as a writer, we are going to segue over to Stuart.
Yeah.
So, Stuart, welcome. And on behalf of the Plaid Nation and the Plaid world, thank you.
Yeah, it's a plaid.
So we are very deeply grateful and deeply Plaid that you are here. I got a whole bunch of one-liners, people.
Anyway. Oh yeah, I'm at my desk, so I have a drawer here.
So
Plaid gags.
So bring us into your world when you were creating this. So what was the impetus?
Explain impetus, because I was doing a show. I mean, you know, the real impetus, I was doing a show, and I had I had always wanted to, a long time ago, I did a show about the Boswell sisters, and we were a harmony group in the 20s and 30s. And one day I was cleaning out my closets, and I found my brother. I had an older brother, like 14 years older, and he left me all his records when he went to college. And David and Larry, if you want to snore, I will.
No, it's fascinating.
No, it's good to hear it again.
I wonder, you know, there were 3 coins, and I had my initials on them. He gave it to me. I love my brother, and I put my initials on everything. And there were pictures. They were in little 45s, because we only had a 45 record player growing up, and they had little covers, extended plays, and they had the 4 Aces and Mood for Love, and there was a picture of a woman with beautiful hair and like getting ravished by some guy. And then alongside in the strip, a totem pole strip, there were 4 guys in sort of plaid tuxedos, you know, going like they looked like they didn't know what a woman was, let alone able to ravish her, you know. And I thought that'd be funny. And I wonder how this stuff holds up live. So I got some guys together and we did it. And I was doing Pump Boys at the time. I was directing a production of Pump Boys, and I used some of the people from Pump Boys. And we got in my apartment and we transcribed the stuff.
With James. Was James involved then?
No, James was 2 years later.
Oh, okay.
And
James.
And then then we performed it at the West Bank Cafe, and James came.
But it wasn't a play. It wasn't a play for him. But were they being?
No. I wrote stuff on napkins at the West Bank Cafe, but I had written speeches, some of the little speeches, just for background.
So were they characters or?
Sort of, but you know, they were just goofy. They were visiting the basement of the West Bank Cafe, pretending it was their old rehearsal space. It was being turned into a wellness center. They wanted to visit it once before. You know, it was all cobwebs and there was a beat up old piano. And we did 20, 25 minutes. And Lewis Black opened for us.
Wow.
Oh, wow.
He made us go down and do it because he ran the West Bank and somebody canceled. So he said, and one of the guys also was co-founder of the West Bank, Rusty McGee, the late, great Rusty McGee. And so we did it down there and people were, you know, jaw dropped. I mean, a lot of great people were in the audience. It was a really hit place at that time. And they sang No Not Much. And we watched these, you know, sort of trending, edgy comedians put their arms around their dates. And I knew something was pretty special.
Wow.
That was like 1986? 1987.
Yeah.
So, I mean, because I know we just did that event at the West Bank. It was like 30 years later. Were the guys, because I guess I just don't know this, were the guys coming out from like a time warp? I mean, were they set in the 50s?
No, we didn't even deal with that. You know, I should have learned from that point. No, they just said, hey, here we are back in our old place. Nobody questioned.
Okay.
You know, and then we had a very short, wonderful bass player, world-class bass player. And he was short. He was in the bass case.
Oh
my God.
Genius.
Yes. Oh, wow. Hi. Out of the thing. And, you know, so it was just, nobody dared question it. It was just so absurd. Nobody was alive or dead. That didn't happen for another, you know.
Yeah, until I joined. That's the first time it went into
the first
play.
time it was dead. Yeah. Then we went to the O'Neill and then we went to Rochester. Yeah.
And yeah, when we did it in Rochester, it was in Smudge or Sparky's basement with all like a jukebox and all kind of stuff all around. And it just kept morphing from there. By the time we got to New York, I remember we
the Engel wings, it was a half-finished basement because that's what I grew up with. There was insulation, you know, the silver kind with the pink inside, fiberglass insulation on the walls. And at the very end of the show, the wings popped out. It became the fiberglass insulation became their wings.
Well, it's because it was narrated. I mean, we were talked to by God the whole time, and she was telling us that we will find
White. Okay.
Right. We will find something behind unfinished business. What was the line? You'll find your dreams behind
something. I can't remember.
And the whole show we're trying to go unfinished business. We finally see this unfinished boiler room with the insulation, and we go, that's it. And we pull the insulation off the walls and we put the wings on each other, and they opened up and they were,
oh my God,
angel wings, but made of insulation.
That is awesome.
Fun.
Now that needs to be seen in pictures.
Yes.
Oh, we have.
I've got that whole thing up online. I mean, that
everybody was afraid to go into the boiler room, the furnace room.
Right.
Because I always was. When I was a little kid, I didn't want to go in the furnace room. That was like too scary.
So see, folks, we always can bring a horror component into this because Forever Plaid, as I told David earlier, is a ghost story. Just saying.
Yeah, right.
Just saying. Just saying.
Horror.
Absolutely.
Did you guys ever do it at Paulson's?
That's where, we actually, went when Nancy McGraw came the first night. And I've known Nancy for years, but we ended up doing Plaid Tidings the first time. It was basically just Christmas songs of Plaid at Paulson's for in 1987 at Christmas with Paulette Hout playing the piano for us.
Oh, wow.
Cousin, she played Tina Marie. Her name was. Then we sang Tina Marie, and we sang The Naughty Lady of Shady Lane. And she turned around, and it was the baby Jesus in plaid swaddling. It was a Christmas crash on stage, and it was in plaid swallow. And The Naughty Lady of Shady Lane was the baby Jesus.
My God. Oh my goodness.
But as far as Paulson's then became Steve McGraw's, and that is where we opened the show in 1990. Was Steve McGraw's, and then it ran for how long did it run there? 4.5 years?
Well, almost 5 years.
Almost 5.
Wow.
1951 performances.
So, Stuart, I talked to a couple of you. Well, this is actually going back to 2016. I played Jackie Elliott and Billy Elliot, and one of the roles on Jackie on Broadway was played by
Greg Jabara.
He won a Tony.
When I was talking to him about Billy Elliot, he said we also share another character in common, and that is Smudge. I forget exactly where he said he played it. I want to say Washington, D.C.
Well, he played it a lot of places, but he played it at Ford's Theater and then the White House.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And that production, that was a glorious group of guys, because with that production, James and I got to finish the show, put finishing touches on the show. You know, when it was the first time we had a real set, and we had, you know, light cues, like a lot of them, and a sound guy, and we added the moon, and with the silhouettes going across it, and but Greg was wonderful. That was a very tight group of guys, but we had so many stories. George Bush came to see it, and I guess Michael Winter and Neil or Paul Bonato. During Matilda, they had their claves, and the secrets. When George Bush, the elder, came, the Secret Service kind of tackled them because they saw these two people pull out these rods,
like nunchucks.
And then during Perfidia, he laughed so hard he doubled over, and it was Ford's Theater, like he doubled over like he was shot.
Oh God!
Oh, and then they invited us to the White House to perform, and this was right the night before. There was a banquet for his cabinet, and it was the night before they went on vacation. And I was up at the O'Neill doing something else, but I flew in to Washington, and it was so Goyish. I mean, it was bizarre. We didn't get any. Rebecca Lugan and I had to hang out while everybody got ready. They had no food for us.
Wow.
There's no food. There was Triscuits and American cheese and an amazing amount of vodka and orange juice.
Hey, you're at the White House. What else do you need?
Gosh, I had 2 dinners at the White House, and it was fabulous.
Maybe the guys got it, you know. We got tours and all that, but we were just like we had no access to food, so we were pretty high. But not high. But I remember I knew Barbara's nephew. I happened to have just been with her sister Martha on Gardner's Island, and Martha was like kind of a lefty and a real radical, and her son Kevin Rafferty was Roger Moore's major editor. He had done, not Roger Moore, Michael Moore. He had done Roger and Me, and, Girl Groups, and Atomic Cafe, and all the other Michael Moore movies. And Barbara and I were talking about how brilliant his movies were, and how great Michael Moore is. It was so bizarre to talk to this woman as a person. But during the show, after the show, President then Bush nudged me and he goes, they didn't get it. They're square. The cabinet was only laughing if President Bush laughed. You know, they were just, you know, it was weird.
Well, and those four guys then got invited to Kennebunkport and played golf with him.
I didn't go. I was invited too. I just said that that's crossing a line for me. You know, going to the White House once, going to his house for me was a little bit of a stretch, and you know, I wasn't needed.
We got plaid nudity going on there. Yeah, you got to move the camera. That's hot, plaid nudity.
I missed it.
Getting ready for service.
Did you tell him?
You know, I
tell him how I met Larry?
No.
It sort of ties into Scott.
It sure does. I auditioned for, I did my first season of Summer Stock, and I was 24 years old, and I got back to the city, and I went, I really want to get my equity card. And I auditioned for a musical version of The Velveteen Rabbit with a young director named Stuart Ross and a young composer named Jimmy Roberts, who went on to write I Love Your Perfect Now Change and The Thing About Men and James Style. And anyway, yeah, I booked the pivotal seminal title role of the Velveteen Rabbit, and Stuart was my director, and off I went in a van to Florida and played 2,500 seat theaters because it was a big title for them. It was a brand new show. And Stuart and I loved each other from the beginning. And then about 6 months later, he called me and said, we're going to do a workshop of this musical that I've written, and we're kind of starting again from the beginning. We're going to keep all the charts and the monologues, but we really want to try to look at shaping it new and getting it done in New York. And he said, would you please come be a part of it?
Would you want to? And you also saw it. You were in Skokie with the show, and you came to see it in Chicago or something?
It was, no, it was actually, I saw it in Teaneck, yeah. And yeah, so I got to see when they were still alive in the basement, when the guys all came in on crutches, and they all had casts on. And
they were originally dead in Rochester.
Right.
When we made it,
but then by Teaneck,
they said
got badly bruised.
They said they'd bring it into New York if I made them alive, made it more like a play, which just made it sadder. Making them alive made them seem like losers.
And they weren't dead, they were just bruised, right? They were all
just battered.
They've
been in a wreck.
They've been in Iraq. They've been in they were in Vietnam, not Iraq.
Iraq.
Going to Vietnam was better than being a Plaid.
Right.
Jonathan Brody said that at one point.
Oh gosh. Anyway, yeah. So anyway, Stuart, that was probably the happiest call of my life, that you called me to be a part of it and change everything about my life for free to have. But yeah, it was great.
So I always have said, and I know Larry appreciates this now, I've always said that Larry is the OG Sparky. As we know, I mean, that there was technically a Sparky or two before, but I said to David earlier tonight, I was like, listen, you did the movie. Once you do the movie, you're the OG. That's all there is to it, period.
Well, that's a nice thing. And listen, we're dear friends with Jason Graw, who I understudied Jason and David when the show first opened. But the contract that we were on off Broadway it was a cabaret contract, and it had a more remunerative clause. And so, you know, of the 60 reviewers that came to see the show over the first 4 months, I got about half the reviews. And Jason was just gone for huge swaths of time. And there was one point where Jason had been gone, and the stage manager put up on the board, the roles usually played by Larry Raben tonight will be played by Jason Graw. And so anyway, it's been a joke between the two of us for years and years and years. And
then he just drove by before this.
Oh, did,
yeah.
Oh, he did? Oh, yeah. And we're about to do the reunion concert together again.
Another reunion concert.
But yeah, he stepped away after about 6 months and never looked back. He directed it once or twice in his hometown, but never sang these songs again. Until played the character until our reunion concert. And we just had a great time. And it took us right back to rehearsing in Stan's apartment and carrying plungers all over New York City and washing our own shirts and trying to get anybody's attention and donating all the money to Equity Fights AIDS. And
wow,
it was a great, crazy time. But yeah, you can imagine the comments we got carrying 6-foot plungers in plaid jackets to New York City.
In New York City. I was so embarrassed doing it at the time. Now I proudly, sport my 6-foot plunger. But at the time, nobody just thought we were plumbers, going to do a really big job. Really heavy.
In plaid jackets, no less.
Yeah, geeks with
exactly.
Yeah.
So
David,
now
tell them about the plaid, the Glen plaid, the black and white plaid jackets that we still have, that we've Sharpie.
Those?
I still have those.
Wow. Okay, yeah. When we were in Rochester, I mean, we were low budget at the time, and we used them in New York too when we finally took it to New York. But they were black and white plaid. It was kind of houndstoothy, but we took Marks-a-Lots and drew the blue and green in on every single line. We all got together and worked like the whole night, just drawing them all in.
Wow.
And if you look close, it looks like coloring, like some little kid colored it. And press photos with those pictures.
Oh gosh, and David, I remember you took the original plaid box home and zhuzhed it up.
Yes, because it was like a cake box, that original box. I mean, it was a cake box. It was falling apart, and I go, and I like I am to do. I'm taking over, and I went home, and I stopped off at Staples, and I got a big box, and then I made it gorgeous with a big wrapping and everything. And James, when he saw it, he said, "Wow, nice box," and we put it into the show.
It's my favorite line in the show.
Oh,
that actually, I have another interpretation of that, because
I know you do, Stuart. What is it?
Well, when I saw it, I did it from Naked Gun, where Leslie Nielsen looks up Priscilla Presley's dress when she goes up to get something in a library, and he looks at her dress and goes, "Nice beaver."
Yep.
And then she takes a stuffed beaver.
The big stuffed beaver.
Thank you, I just had it stuffed.
So in our production, the person that brings out the box to us is one of the owners of the theater, Joanne, and she is very, very stage shy. She's
extremely
right.
Stage shy.
She doesn't love being in front of anybody. So she comes out with this ornate, plaid covered box with the big bow tie, and in it are our jackets and yada, yada, yada. And that she brings it out, and all of us turn in unison and say, "Nice box." I think the first time we ever said it, I thought she was going to die. And instead she just said, "Thank you," and just kept going.
Thank you, Plaid. Yeah, you could do that.
To this day, every time I see her, there's always a way for me to work that in, always a way. So it constantly breaks the ice. So it's great.
The point is that they see a woman for the first time in how many decades, right? And they watch her go up the aisle, and they're like, "Wow." And then they look down and go, "Oh, nice box." Like, the box is more impressive than the woman. I mean, that's, to me, is what and I'm always,
they don't know.
Dial it down.
It's set in innocence.
Yeah.
Completely.
Yep.
Completely.
Yep.
And that is so much about the whole show. They have no idea they're being funny. They don't know why the audience is laughing. They're earnestly trying to do this show, and they're just.
They don't know. They don't like being on
stage. Trying to be funny. What?
They don't like being on stage. I mean, not Sparky, of course.
Other than Sparky, yeah.
Frankie does it out of duty.
Yep. Yeah, and I'm not any good at patter. So.
I'm not any good at patter. Oh, Smudge doesn't he?
Yes. Yes. And then I get milk and magnesia across my lip.
Yes. What do you use for that? What do you use for that? It took so many different things to figure it out.
Whipped cream.
Oh,
yeah.
Toothpaste. I'm using toothpaste right now.
Toothpaste.
Ours was usually sour cream.
Oh,
sour
God.
Cream, watered down sour cream, because it would stick and it would be.
But you have to wash that container out every single night.
Yeah, we just we used good old Cool Whip.
Cool Whip. Yep.
Or anything, whatever. We tried.
Anything that stays is good.
We tried kefir. We tried all sorts of.
Boy.
Wide Out. That was my favorite.
Wide out?
Harder to get off.
That's
Yeah,
terrible.
you're using us as
Wow.
guinea pigs for that.
Did you
Yeah,
hate
I
your
hate 'em.
cast or?
I never, if they didn't want to do something, I'm like, so we'll do something else.
So I have to say, when I first picked up the script of Plaid, and I will tell my director right now that I told David this earlier, I was almost disappointed that I was getting the role of Smudge because it wasn't something that I was looking to do. It was, I don't know why I thought it should be anything else, but I was like, Smudge. And I remember Gina told me, she goes, you go and you do that role. And I did, and I fell in love with him. I mean, literally my prescription glasses are my Smudge glasses. But when I first picked up that script, Stuart, what I'll call the liner notes, the whatever you want to call it, it was the most descriptive thing about a show and what the characters should be. And like David just said, like this naivety. Is that the word?
Yeah,
Naivete.
It's like,
right.
they don't know they don't know they're being funny. They're not trying to be funny. And I remember reading the note about when I sing 16 tons that, I shouldn't be, I'm trying to figure out exactly how it went, but like, I shouldn't be trying to be like that bass to be making fun of somebody or, fun of Tennessee, Ernie Ford, but that I should be like literally trying to sing that song the way I should sing that song. And just all of those notes in there for every character, including the Smudge eating fire. It was brilliant how that was in there. And I don't know if you wrote that or I don't remember.
He was very disappointed that I did not allow him to eat fire in a small black box theater.
Yes.
No.
Yes.
That is disappointing.
Yeah.
Thank you, Larry.
We had to cut it in some places, but I mean, we tried so many different things, but nothing.
But we did it.
A lot of originally. What did we do? He held the note out, and everybody else drank water.
Drank water.
Yeah.
That was a little meta.
Oh my God! You remember the stupid Twinkies?
Yes.
The magic trick.
It went okay. So that was it. We had this week because at the Cannon for a while we couldn't do fire, and so we tried anything at the end. So it was a magic trick, and it was this tray, and it looked like a cake pan, and it was an empty tray, and then you put the top on it and lift it off, and what was in the top was the bottom that stayed in there, and it was full of Twinkies. We did Twinkies, and then
we hurled them at the audience.
We took them up and go, Twinkies. And I remember somebody after the show go, what were you throwing? And I go, it was Twinkies. They go, oh, I thought you said chicken. No, it was Twinkies. But yeah, Twinkies. I think we did that once. We did all kind of magic tricks.
I still have shame from that moment.
I don't even remember that. I guess I do, but I don't.
Well, no, it was like we tried it at the Cannon. We tried every different thing, but nothing worked like fire.
Right. Joan Stein couldn't get the Beverly Hills fire chief to sign off on it. She finally did. So
yeah, we finally did.
Plus, you all had fire. You had fire extinguishers.
The fire extinguishers were practical fire extinguishers in case. We never had a problem.
Just want to tell you real quick about the fire eating. Gabe Barry, who did the workshop with us, knew how to eat fire. He had all these circus tricks.
We did that in St. Croix.
And okay, Stuart. Yeah. And then Gabe taught me how to do it. And then I had to teach David how to do it. But David took it and ran with it. And he should send you the clip of what he did for the film. He nearly obliterated a camera by not eating fire, but spitting fire.
Yeah.
Somebody got a still
breathing
shot of it. Yeah, there was a camera on a crane, and David has like a 12-foot torch of fire coming out of his mouth as he was spitting fluid at the camera.
So when we were shooting it, I don't remember who had asked me. You? I don't think you asked me, Stuart, because you would have known. But they said, "Well, can you breathe fire?" And I was like, "Sure." And I had never done that before. And so, I mean, we use lantern fluid because it does nice white smoke, and I would lose smoke rings. but you dip it in there and you put it in your mouth, and you know, there's no real trick to it. It kind of burns, but you have to be careful. You have to keep your head up and stuff. But so what I did on the film set is I didn't swallow, but lantern fluid, and would go and went and held the torch, and they said, okay, we're gonna do this one and done, because we're not gonna call out the fire marshal or anything. Let's just do it. And we did it, and I went, and it engulfed. I'm gonna bring that picture up. It engulfed the camera.
I believe that
was done
still is in the movie.
Yeah,
Like,
it is.
Yeah.
Well, it does go around the camera. You're seeing that camera angle.
Okay.
But wasn't it done in a pickup that way? We didn't do it in any of the live
Yeah,
shows.
it
was a pickup.
We
Yeah.
did, and everybody was surrounding me with real fire extinguishers. It wasn't just, you know, everybody had them in front of me. You know, there was like lots of fire extinguishers around, and I just, you know, it's like what they say at audition. Do you do gymnastics? You go, yeah, I do gymnastics.
Say yes to everything.
Yeah. Why can't? Okay.
Jacob, are you eating fire?
I am.
Oh, how proud.
We're using lighter fluid. We had one of our stagehands switch off, and I think it might have had too much one night and literally blew fire.
Oh.
And this was just a few weeks ago, and the guys, I've never seen our eyes so big on stage. It was hysterical and just like flabbergasted.
Oh my God.
Wow.
And I don't. Oh, now you're getting my ring light. I'm gonna try to hold it. Well, it's not gonna work. Okay,
There we go.
There we go.
All right. So, I mean, the Luma crane is right there. You can see the arm of the crane above, but it was all the way around it.
Wow.
Wow.
I have another one, a shot from the
Well
front.
done, David.
What?
Yeah.
Oh my
So fast. For doing it, but for getting it up on your phone so fast.
And well directed, Stuart, for asking for it.
What did we, now in Plaid Tidings, we just do Alvin,
Yes.
right?
Yeah, just Alvin.
Oh
Yep.
yeah, Alvin. And
Yeah, I want a hula hoop. Alvin!
Right.
Oh,
Yeah,
Always.
I love it. It's totally fun.
it is. But okay,
always-
so I remember how that whole thing happened was in Rochester. We had it was Robert Polans playing the accordion. He could play the accordion and singing Lady of Spain, but it was just a long number. And you thought of it like I Love Lucy, when Ethel May Potter is up there performing, and Ricky and Lucy and Fred thought she was going to embarrass herself, so they were parading things behind her, and she was getting all this applause. And that was the analogy I remember you used, that all this is going on.
Well, we did it actually because of that, because we got a job for money. After we did the O'Neill, we got hired to do the show in a hotel in St. Croix in the Virgin Islands for Christmas. But I had to come up, and we had about a half hour or 45 minutes of a show. And they didn't care about a script. And we had to add a woman. They wanted a woman in it. So we got Allison Frazier, because her husband was Rusty McGee, and Gabe Barry, and a guy named Jonathan Long, who I was always coaching in his club act and his auditions, who was a tenor. And he said, we had to expand the show. So we had to find stuff. And he said, I always wanted to sing Lady of Spain. And we, you could hear our eyes roll in, the Bahamas. And so he was singing Lady of Spain with like his life depended on it. And I said to Gabe, well, why don't you juggle while he's singing? In that rhythm. And Rusty said, oh, I have one of those, those things you blow and they extend. And Allison did roller skated, there was a lot of things going on. And I said, gee, it looks like the Ed Sullivan Show. And I went, oh, the light, you literally saw the light bulb on the top of my head.
And
that's awesome.
I think that the Ed Sullivan Show may be one of the hardest numbers for anybody ever to do on stage. In 3 minutes and 11 seconds, the amount of things that we do on that stage, and then we get 15 seconds and we have to sing a beautiful song like Scotland the Brave. So,
I'm sorry.
thank you for that, Stuart.
And also,
But it,
Stuart,
it really is just a list. I mean, there was no genius. Once you got the idea, the genius was just keeping it going and don't give it. It's actually only 2 minutes and 33.
Yeah, it's not really. It was the 3 minutes and 11 was like, what would be a good number? What sounds like
That's all. It
wasn't 3 minutes and 11 seconds at all.
It was like 2 minutes and 30,
It feels like 7 years sometimes, especially by Sunday.
That number is so, makes such an impression. And anytime we would do a TV appearance, they wanted that number.
Sure.
It just, without knowing who these guys are and without leading up to it, to know that, it looks like just grown men throwing toys around, and it doesn't play as well. I mean, if
they won't let, and they insist we do it.
Right.
Like the telethon and all that. There are not that many up tempo songs in Forever Plaid.
No,
People
it's true.
think there are, but there aren't. There aren't.
And
enough.
we did have a fish in the number at one point.
We did have a fish.
So when Sparky came out as a seal, we
fed him a
Frankie
fish.
had a bass in his jacket and threw him a fish he had to catch in his teeth and go back out.
And
there was.
I remember when we preset everything again, and just
where's the gun? Where's the gun?
No, oh, it's under the fish. And we go, oh, of course it's under the fish.
Of course,
no, this is where
Wouldn't it be?
It was the Liberace. The Liberace was for me, finally, when I came up with Liberace and the piano, we figured out how to do that. That's when that number was finished. I mean, I put
that
it
was
in,
the Plaid Tidings, then you put it in.
put it back in, because that's the audience.
It's so good, Stuart.
Musical theater only survives and only runs if there are surprises. It's just the bottom line of good musical theater.
And
you
it's
have to have surprises.
It's one of the numbers that I've ever seen or been involved in that literally has the audience hysterically laughing from 5 seconds in. First of all, Jinx coming out with the accordion and starting Lady of Spain, and then it cascades and it keeps going. It never even really hits the crescendo. It just is at the crescendo of laughter the entire number. And by the time you get done with it, I think the audience is just as exhausted as you are when for us, we collapse down on stage and you could just see the audience literally grabbing their guts because they're laughing so hard.
And I always felt that, after time, because our audience actually remembered, and I remembered still, the Ed Sullivan Show, and you remember all those moments, but it doesn't matter. Kids young people who have no reference to it are hysterical at that number. Just
and when we did it on the
ridiculousness of it.
When we did it on the West End in London.
Sorry, Scott.
I was just saying that's the juxtaposition of it. It's the old folks really loved it because they knew that all the stuff we were referencing, and the kids who had no idea were just they're a bunch of goofy guys doing funny things, and it was always that middle-aged group that wasn't as sure, but it was always the young ones and the old ones that loved them.
Yeah, it's totally. We found out when we did the show in London, they didn't get the Ed Sullivan Show. They had their own show called Sunday Night at the Palladium, and so we referenced it, but then we also, when we did it in Tokyo, you just found that there were different local cultural events that happened around family that people could relate it to. There was some version of Ed Sullivan that was done culturally in each place.
So we would reference it.
That was a question, Stuart, that I had was there's so many special skills that people use in this show with the eating fire, the twisting plates, or the squeeze box or the harmonium. Did you write these things in initially, or did you just, as people came out, they were like, oh, by the way, I can do this, and you were like, oh yeah, great. Oh no, we're putting that in the show. Did these things happen organically? Have you found
sort of? I would say overall, what Gabe Barry always wanted to do. I had met him when he had done. He played the evil lizard in Starmites, and he had this bass voice, and we became fast friends and stuff. And he used to be in Barnum. He was a trapeze artist and a circus person, and he went across gorges in St. Croix over hundreds of feet in the air, and he wanted to do that in the show, and it was just insane. So he wanted to eat fire, and I heard he could eat fire. I said, "Do you mind eating?" By the way, but nobody really has to play the accordion. We could get away with just squeezing it, and
Yeah.
special skills. If that's the trouble with me directing productions, especially when we had like 17 of them or however many, because I would like change it for whoever was doing it. If they were really great tappers, we had more tap, and we had this or that. Or they could do Jackie Mason. I said, well, why don't we do Jackie Mason?
Right. And so, I mean, because I was circus trained by a circus trainer in bullwhips, because they brought them in when I did La Cage on Broadway. I did Hannah from Hamburg, and they brought in a circus trainer to teach me. So I came with that skill. So we had a little tiny buggy whip that we had at McGraw's, and then when we took the show to, I mean, that was a tiny little stage.
Yeah.
When we took the show to San Diego, we were on the old
Globe. Yeah.
stage. It was, it didn't work, and I go, well, I could use a bullwhip, and they had them there. They had 3 bullwhips, so I go, get me one, and
they were really worried about
there with
safety.
that cigarette. What?
They were really worried about safety, and do you remember they made you put a pencil on the edge of a counter to
piano.
show that you?
I am sweating. On the edge of the piano, I don't want to raise it higher because I don't have the air conditioning on, so that it'd be loud, and I'm just sweating.
Squirrel.
Anyway, I'm trying to keep my armpits below the screen. So anyway, I am. I'm going to raise my arms. Oh, shoot. Okay.
They made him put a piano on the edge, a pencil on the edge
of the piano, and I am 15 feet away from it. And I was like, and it broke the pencil in half and left the other half there.
Wow.
So I made Guy was like totally shaking. He's got the cigarette in his mouth. And I did it, but I wasn't aiming at him. I just aimed in front of it. But I could crack that thing like gunfire.
Now, did you
always had a releve because you were in heels.
I did. Right. That's right. I would do it in full releve because I was so used to being in stilettos.
Did you? Wow. Did you know how to juggle beforehand?
I did.
You did.
I did.
Yeah, so did I.
I know how to juggle like bowling pins, but we just
I can't do that.
Bean bags. Well,
no, I played bean bags and scarves. I mean,
scarves. If you're not really juggling, you can do scarves.
Watching the show lately, it seems to not take off. It takes, we go through 2 choruses before something funny happens. And then, because then it just splats out at you.
Yeah.
By the way, speaking of London, it just opened in London.
Oh, wow.
I just sent Larry and David the reviews. I have never gotten reviews like this. It has opened to phenomenal reviews saying you have to move this. They said,
"Yay, Stuart!"
Yeah.
It says Forever Plaid. It's hilarious and has heart, and it reminds us that we have one too. That was for London to say that.
That makes me happy. Congratulations.
And
I'm dying to see what's going on over there.
And that's, to me, that's the biggest piece of this show, 100%, is the heart that it shows. It's the way it brings people together. It's the way it brings our audience in as a 5th character and really just makes them feel all the things. I can't tell you the amount of times, and I'm sure everybody else that has been a part of the show has heard the same thing, where we were standing outside, saying goodbye and thank you to the people. And I remember vividly this older woman coming up to me and saying, when we sang Love is a Many Splendor thing, that she almost lost it because she had just lost her husband of 50 plus years. And this was one of their songs together. And when someone tells you something like that as an actor, singer, performer, whatever, to me, that's our job. We give we give people a place to go for a couple hours and forget about the world. And especially during this last year where we were missing that, and we were missing that human connection and the hugs. I mean, I haven't seen this guy next to me in, I don't know, until tonight. It's been a really long time. And I was so happy just to hug him and, tell him I love him and how much I missed him. But this show, every single song, some people may not know certain songs, but then another song will hit them and you'll have that moment where the person says, this reminds me of my grandfather, or this reminds me of my husband or wife or boyfriend or girlfriend, whatever the thing is. And I have not seen, and I've watched a bunch of Plaid performances and everything else. It just seems like it's one of the few casts that I've ever been involved with where everybody collectively gets it. They just get it. And
you mean the cast or everybody in the whole
everybody in the cast just together, and the creative team, and you know, my choreographer, even the sound people and the light people, everybody just buys in and they get it collectively, and then the audience gets it, you know?
Yes, and I would say part of, for me, the genius of how Stuart wrote it is it's the fact that these guys take such good care of each other.
Yes.
You know, they're petrified to be there. Well, 3 of the 4. Sparky is his own thing, but he still is a good guy. But so
Sparky's
I think he translates. Well. He means well. He does.
And I always say
think
there's no bad guy in this show. Everybody is a good guy.
No.
But I think what it translates to is, I think it's why we as Plaid actors have lifelong connections, is because the way that Stuart shaped the show, we are dependent upon each other and we take care of each other. And the audience recognizes that, and they love that so much because everybody wants to have their quirks taken care of. And it is that sincerity and that heart. And that's why I think this is a forever enduring piece of theater.
I do too. And I think it's what makes the relationships that last lifetimes, because this show, not like any other 4-character show, other 4-character shows, they have their own, coming from their own place. Everybody in this show, you're working as a unit. You are all working to put on the best show you can, and it works together. And you're never fighting with each other. It's all trying to do this great show, and it I don't know, it does something that no other show I've ever been involved with, and I watch it happen over and over with other companies. And you're just nodding there, Jacob.
Yes.
It bonds you like no other show, and it's a joy to do. It is a joy to do.
I don't know if you guys remember, I don't know if you guys know Sean Churchman.
Yeah, I do.
He directed me in it, and the first cast was just 4 people who didn't know each other, and we got to go know each other very well. And then a couple years later, Sean was in it, and I came in as a replacement, but it was very interesting to see. He was my director, but now he was on stage with me. And we'd already sort of had a nice relationship, but now it was even better because he was in the same place that I was. So it is, you know, a round table.
And people can come in and out of the company, and you still, you lock in.
Absolutely.
That person, we've had incredible relationships with so many imposters that have come in and what has to do with that?
I did a production in Virginia where 4 of us came in who had done 4 different productions. We had 2 days to put it together, and we all figured out which version we were doing and what we did it on the left side or right side, and did it. And you know, it was incredible. They already knew it, we already knew it, and just came together and did it. It was fun.
That's awesome. Hey guys, I have to say goodbye to you because it's about to get really loud where I am. But
I
got a glass of wine there waiting for you.
You're at a winery?
I'm at a winery, yeah.
You're drinking a loud Chardonnay?
It's very loud, Stuart. Big, bold notes.
Larry,
they've got a party of 9 and a party of 8 that are about to walk in the door here, so it's going to get crazy.
Larry,
but it's been such an honor to be here.
Larry, thank you so much on behalf of everybody all around.
Pleasure,
thank you
pleasure to
much.
meet you.
Thank you all, Plaid brothers. Be well,
Thank you,
everybody.
Larry.
Take care, Larry.
Sparky forever.
Bye, Stewie. Sparky's
Bye.
unite.
Hark when the night is falling, hear towering in gallant fame, Scotland, my mountain name. Long may your proud standards gloriously wave. Land of my high endeavor, land of the shining river, land of my heart forever, Scotland the brave. Crum, 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 Scotland the brave. Scotland the brave. Pleasure meeting you all. See ya.